Hello and welcome to the Loblolly Pines Publishing Podcast. I am KJ Duff, and today I'm going to be reviewing China Miéville's, and this is how the interweb describes it, weird crime mystery urban fantasy novel, TheCity in the City. Before we get to the good stuff, if you haven't already done so, and based on the current book sale analytics, many of you have not, please check out my debut novel, HALCYON SUICIDE, a story in which I attempt to explore the question, is it possible to live a happy, fulfilling life without an assigned purpose? You can find the link to the novel on my website, www.loblollypinespublishing.com, or, because that is a mouthful, simply check out the link in the description below. Also, if you dig what we're building here, please consider subscribing wherever you are currently listening to the sound of my soothing voice. Your support and feedback is genuinely appreciated. Now, with all the shameless plugs out of the way, let's jump into The City and the City. Written by author China Miéville and published by Macmillan on May 15, 2009, The City and the City follows Inspector Theodore Bourlou of the Basel Extreme Crime Squad as he tries to solve the homicide of a young woman whose lifeless body was left in the seedy underbelly of the fictional city of Basel. As he and his partner in the Basel Police, Officer Elizabeth Corwai, begin to pull on the string and unravel the mystery, they stumble on a myriad of conspiracies and myths, not only of their city, but of the city in which they share gross topical real estate, Halycon. The case forces Inspector Bourlou to cross the border into Halycon, the city he is, by law, supposed to unsee, and work with his counterpart, Detective Kusim Dat of the Halycon Murder Squad. Together, the two detectives descend into the murky underworld of deceptive foreign university students and their cagey professors, disenfranchised nationalists and idealistic unificationists, two factions hell-bent on seeing these two cities become one, and powerful, tenebrous hands manipulating all sides. Bourlou is fully aware this case may very well be the one that costs him and his partners their jobs, but much worse, exposing the secrets and truths of the cities may trigger the ever-present, looming power of Breach, whom, at every turn, await and threaten to swoop in and snatch Bourlou and his associates into the shadows between the city and the city from which it silently surveils. The City and the City is the first book by China Miéville that I've read, so I didn't go in as a reader who was familiar with his style of prose. What immediately stood out in my initial reading were the characters, both main and minor. Miéville did a masterful job of making his characters intriguing and well-rounded, giving them each their own voice while also avoiding falling into the pitfalls of detective tropes readers expect to find when reading criminal mystery detective procedurals. What I mean by that is that when you read their dialogue, you don't have to question who's speaking. Bourlou is pensive and reserved, his speech calm and calculated. Dat is somewhat boorish, but not in an imbecilic way, and Corwai is smooth yet cautiously naive. They each have their ideals and principles, and they stick to them. Even as they face the unknown, it's those principles that keep them anchored to the earth. Spending time with these characters as they live their lives in this dysfunctional, functional world, living with citizens of a man-made society that only makes sense to them and the hands who designed it, is what kept me turning the page. I also found the instances of suspense enthralling, particularly the climax that leads into the final act of the story. The way it unfolds had my heart racing and my blood pressure rising, which is what great police and detective procedurals do. Unfortunately, that is where the excitement of the novel ended. There are two major elements of the story that didn't work for me: the mechanics of the city and the city, and the murder mystery. On its face, the murder mystery is pretty straightforward, and that to me was a letdown. Miéville did an excellent job of building up so many mysteries, what I like to refer to as the spinning plates, only for the truth to be some mustache-twirly villain of the week reveal. It was so, I don't know, I don't want to say pedestrian, that sounds kind of harsh, but Yeah, pedestrian. It was pedestrian. I can't describe what I mean any further without spoiling the plot of the book. It's too thin of a tightrope to attempt to walk. That being said, that's not what really hurt my experience with the book. It's the fact that I did not understand how the mechanics of the city and the city actually work. I had to look it up on Reddit, and when I read a novel, any genre, I don't want to have to do that, nor should I have to understand it. This is not to say Miéville didn't set it up correctly. I am saying that I, as a reader, didn't understand it, but I'll try to explain it. Essentially, from what I gleaned, think of New York City, right? The Empire State Building, Brooklyn Bridge, Yankee Stadium, Times Square, hot dog vendors, Elmo, naked cowboy, taxis, whatever. Now think of Los Angeles, Capitol Records, the Staples Center, the Chinese Theater, Dodger Stadium, rich people walking their toy poodles on Rodeo Drive. Now move Los Angeles from the West Coast and plop it down on New York City so they share the same space. Now, if you are in New York City, even though you are also in Los Angeles, remember Los Angeles now occupies the same space, you have to train your brain to unsee everything in LA. And in order to cross over to LA from New York, you have to go get the proper permits and permission, go to Penn Station, walk through a terminal, and come back out of Penn Station back in New York, only you are now technically in Los Angeles, which means you now have to unsee everything in New York. Failure to do any of this can trigger breach. Did you understand that? I barely do, and that's how it works. And to be honest, I'm about 59% sure I'm right. And that is my main issue with the novel. If this was supposed to be a social commentary about the fatuousness that is classism and border division, it didn't work on that level, especially the ending being what it was. I think the book may have worked better for me if the focus was on the dismantling of that infrastructure instead of the murder mystery. Because what is also strange is that the book is set in our reality. The United States of America, England, Japan, Australia, these countries as we know them all exist. So it's hard to, one, discern where exactly in Europe the story of the city and the city is supposed to take place, and two, that I'm supposed to believe none of these countries looked at Bazell and Oklahoma and went, no, this is some kind of human rights violation. For the sake of those citizens and humanity, we have a moral obligation to intervene. I'm sorry, I know the world at the moment is teetering on the edge of oblivion, but I find it hard to suspend my belief in this regard. One of the most well-known idioms in existence is never judge a book by its cover. I have to regrettably admit that I did. On the cover of my copy of The City and the City, there is a quote from the Los Angeles Times that reads, "If Philip K. Dick and Raymond Chandler's love child were raised by Franz Kafka, the writing that emerged might resemble ... The City and the City." I enjoy Kafka. I can see flashes of Philip K. Dick, sure, and though there are some instances within Raymond Chandler's detective novels that do feel dated, the mysteries he weaves are undoubtedly done so seamlessly. The City and the City is dedicated to China Miéville's mother, Claudia Lightfoot, who was a fan of crime and mystery novels. China Miéville, it is said, wrote The City and the City for her. She was terminally ill and unfortunately passed away before the book was even published. I'm sure she would have loved this novel. However, for me, and I feel I must continue to emphasize the me aspect of this, the mystery, reveal, and twist of The City and the City just didn't land. With me. Perhaps, and I mean this sincerely, that is my fault for expecting it to feel like PKD, Chandler, and Kafka rolled into one. Children, never judge a book by its cover. Lesson learned. Literature is art, and art, as we know, is subjective. My experiences and opinions are my own, as yours should be. There is no denying China Miéville is a literary auteur, which, as I say this, sounds redundant. If you love to read and you want to read something out of the ordinary, The City and the City is just that. You will not feel like you wasted your time. Miéville's writing style is undeniably unique, and his characters feel so real you can grab their hands and take their pulse. That is exactly what readers should want. Yes, the novel would have appealed to me more if it would have explored the social aspect of the fictional cities, made this the main subject instead of a backdrop, one of many plot elements within a murder mystery police procedural. However, this does in no way sway me from reading any more of Miéville's work. On the contrary, knowing what I know now and finally understanding Miéville's writing style, I will feel more prepared and comfortable going into his other works, and perhaps my next Miéville experience will be much more positive. And that about does it for this review of China Miéville's, and God, I feel like I'm butchering his name, and if I have, I am so sorry, The City and the City. If you read the novel and want to comment on it, or if there was a novel by China you think I should read next, please let me know in the comments section, usually below or above. I don't know how the interweb works. I would love to read your thoughts on it, but please, guys, come on, be respectful. You get more love with honey than you do with cow manure. Wait, no, that's not right. Also, if you liked my review and want to hear more of my opinion on other works, please consider subscribing and put your thumb or index finger on the bell to be notified when I drop a fresh review. I'm currently reading Haruki Murakami's most recent novel, The City and Its Uncertain Walls. If you're sensing a theme here, I assure you it's not by design. I'm more than halfway done with it, and it will be the next book I review, so stay tuned for that. Finally, did I mention I wrote a book? Yeah, it's this one, HALCYON Suicide. Link is in the description. Buy it, read it, review it honestly, and if you like it, give it to someone else to read. If you thought it was a joke, give it to someone else to read. They could probably use a good laugh too. I've been KJ Duff. Thank you for your support. Love you, my humans. Talk to you next time on the Loblolly Pines Publishing Podcast. Say that 3 times fast, I dare you.